week. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. Make sure to watch next week's video. No, I mentioned we would have an announcement this week, but it got delayed by a couple of days till early next week. So I'll hopefully be able to talk about all that stuff in next week's video, which means this week's video I have no real plan. Not a problem. One game finishes, another project has to start, but I haven't really started on a new game project just yet. I started on 2 new game projects after the intro. This guy is so wrong. It's next week, idiot. Hey, I'm Pascal from Orangepixel, and yes, I did just mention before the intro that I'm working on 2 new game projects. And yes, I'm also the same guy that was saying he needed a little break because I've been working on projects back to back to back. But I did have a little break. I've been playing The Last of Us 2 and previous weeks working on the iArcade game. That's sort of a break to me. It was more of a fun project and fun tinkering. So I am relaxed and I am ready to go on starting something new, which is also a great phase and just very fun because I don't know what it's gonna be. I just have some ideas, and 2 of those ideas we're gonna talk about right now. First idea being this one. So yeah, this is a little beat 'em up project, or that's at least the name we're gonna give it for now. We have a dude walking around on the street, and that's pretty much all we have right now. We have some ideas, and I keep mentioning we because the thing with this beat 'em up game is that it's a cooperation with somebody else who is doing the graphics and I'll do the coding. If you've been with the channel for a while, the start of this year, in that video I mentioned I wanted to team up with people and see how that works out and if we can do something together and get to different styles and different type of games. And based on that video I got a bunch of messages from people left and right, and one of those messages was from someone who can do pixel art graphics. It's bulkier and bigger than my graphics, and it's animated differently, and it is interesting to look at. So we came up with an idea to create a beat 'em up, and we'll see where that goes. Now the problem for that is that I have to wait for him to create graphics. He's currently a bit busy with other stuff, so there's a bit of a delay and it's gonna take some months before we really dive into this. Right now the main character is done by him, but the background art is done by Dylan, the intern, who is also working on some graphics and ideas and mock-up art for this game, and we'll see where it goes and where it's heading. But this is not gonna take up all my time. So in this week's video I also want to talk about how do you decide which game you're gonna be working on. I never really talked about that on this channel. Did a lot of devlog series, but usually I already have a prototype up and running, and that's the starting point. For this one, why a beat 'em up? And I have the other game I'm gonna talk about in a bit. The beat 'em up is pretty simple. It's a cooperation with somebody else who's gonna be doing the graphics. Code-wise, a beat 'em up, it's not very interesting or very difficult. I think it's my first beat 'em up, but I have a rough idea what needs to be done. It's mostly a character walking around, kicking, screaming, shouting, hitting, those type of things, and then opponents that keep coming at you and do the same and get tougher and rougher, and it's not extremely difficult. So since this is going to be a side project next to my main project, I needed something that was scope-wise fairly easy to plan and manage. And of course, having the option available of somebody else doing the graphics, a beat 'em up has a lot of graphics. There's just a lot of animation that makes a good beat 'em up. So having someone that can dedicate all his time on animations and graphics, while I can just dedicate my time on code, is a lot easier than me having to do both code and graphics. And of course, Dylan is still available, the intern who did the background for this and is doing a mock-up and graphics. So a lot of graphics are being made for this, and I just have to focus on the code. And while that's being done, I start another game project, which is going to be my main project.
Break! This is Full Off 7. This is Blue 1. Groups in contact. Coordinates as follows. Platoon location. High uniform. 3-5. Sour 3.
And that's my main project, or at least most likely the main prototype I'll be working on. Haven't fully decided what this game is going to be, but it's mostly based on TV shows like SWAT or SEALs Team or The Unit, which is a few years older. But usually in games, this is turn-based, and I want to have it a real-time arcadey action. Go in, shoot all the terrorists, and get out and go on to your next mission. Vaguely an idea. Alright, so how do I get to an idea like that? Pretty much this was one of two ideas I had in my head. I didn't have a lot of it in my head. I pretty much had this SWAT car that would drive in from the right, screeching to a halt. And this team of squad members or SWAT team members or whatever we're gonna call them, they jump out ready to kick some ass, and then they proceed to enter any of the buildings, which could be any type of building, but right now it's just an apartment block. You enter it and then you try to find your way through all the hallways, taking down bad guys, knocking down doors, and that's as far as I got. Now this is just a mock-up image, which means in GIMP, my graphics program, I just create this like it's a screenshot of a game that I really want to play. It just doesn't exist yet. The point of creating a graphic mock-up like this is to just have a bunch of stuff there, a bunch of ideas. They don't all have to be good, they don't all have to be great or end up in the game, but we want to throw as many game ideas into this graphic, into this, to make it look interesting. And as soon as it looks interesting, we'll eventually split it up into usable stuff for a prototype. But right now, for example, these little soldiers right here are actually the characters from Snake Core, and I think they still look pretty awesome, so I might use them, but I've also been modifying them a little bit to look different. And of course, same goes for all the bad guys and characters. They're all based on this same model of character I used in Snake Core, and then we just give it a different head, a different color, different skin, different hair, glasses or not, something in his hand. This is actually the professor, but now with red hair instead of white hair and no lab coat. And then we just create a bunch of graphics, and that way we kind of build a whole mock-up and create something that looks like a game. It just isn't. It's just a bunch of layers and graphics, and we can just, yeah, this isn't usable at all. So while I'm drawing this mock-up, I also try to figure out all the obstacles that will be coming at me as I try to create the game. How will these walls work? How will I create these rooms and these apartments? How will I create the buildings? What if we also want other buildings like banks or movie theaters or whatever? We'll need to make sure every graphic and every code can actually be flexible enough to make all of those things work. So as I create the mock-up, my head is just working on a bunch of problems and trying to solve them already. So by the time I dive into the code, hopefully I'll know how to approach it, and it can still be wrong, it can still be maybe not the best way or the optimal way, or it might not work at all, but I'll have thought about it extensively before we actually dive into any code. So that's a little extra bonus of being able to do your own game graphics and your own code. While you're doing the graphics, you can figure out how to best handle it in code, and maybe you should draw it slightly different or in different sizes or proportions, because the code needs to be able to manage it. So while I'm drawing all this, my head is working on the code already without writing the code. Even though a project like this really starts in my head and I'll just keep thinking about it while doing other stuff, at some point we'll start doing this mock-up, and then we'll also start a design document, pretty much writing down all the ideas. And I'm not going to mention all of these ideas because I know how that works. If I mention something and it will not end up in the game, people will be disappointed or whatever. So everything can still change at this point, but we have something started. We have a mock-up, we have graphics, we have a cool vibe going on, and we have some sort of idea of what this game is going to be. Also, people kept commenting about my laptop sitting on a box, so replace that. It's fixed now. So now that I have this mock-up, the next phase is start the game code project and start at a point that makes sense. And for me, that's just the first idea I had for this game was this SWAT car driving into the screen, and your soldiers jumping out of that. So that's really the code I'm going to be working on. I want to have this street on the screen. I'll have this SWAT car van drive into the screen and characters jumping out. That's literally going to be the first thing I'll try to get working up and running in the game. That really sets the scene, sets the feel and the vibe for this project. And from there on, it's going to be the rest of the street, adding buildings, and then all the code to enter a building. And then the hard part is going to be the layout of those buildings. I have no idea yet how I'm going to be doing it. Of course, I can design them all by hand, but if you've been following the channel for a while, I really love procedural generation. So we're gonna figure out a way to create procedural apartment buildings and have them with interesting items like couches, tables, sofas, characters. I have to figure out how to do it. I got some ideas obviously, but I'm not there yet. So I'll just like to dive into stuff and figure it out as we go. So a SWAT car first, characters jumping out a street. And from there on, we'll see where this ship ends. And in a few weeks time, I might just be working on something else completely different, but I have a bunch of good ideas for this game and I'm very hopeful. And this first mock-up, this was just the first thing I started drawing last Friday and it ended up looking pretty cool. So yeah, I'm very excited about this. We'll see how it ends. Make sure to drop by on the Discord, as this was already shown last week. I like to just post stuff like this and very early. Perhaps I can already show some van driving action later this week or next week. So make sure to drop by on the Discord. And I think I gotta wrap up this video because I want to dive into this new world we're creating, the fun stage of game development, creating a prototype and figuring out what it's gonna be. Alright, we're just gonna end this video reading some comments on last week's video. For example, I love my Spectrum, Laser Squad, Laser 1, C64. I love the Spectrum as well, although I was more a C64 kind of guy. There was just the chipsets and all the sounds, and sorry, but it was just a little bit better than the Spectrum, in my opinion. I'm glad everything is going well with Residual development. Looking forward to playing Residual. Yeah, it's been a great ride, and now we start something new. And Residual is I'm still doing some stuff to the game here and there, but I have to keep away from the code because Serious Lion on the Discord is porting it to all the consoles. So every time I change stuff, I don't think it makes him a very happy guy, but I'll try to stay away from the code, but there's still some things I want to do. Oh man, this is so cool. Congrats on making the dream come true. Well, I didn't make the arcade, but thank you, because the arcade cabinet is pretty cool to have. I just want to say that I really love your videos. Keep it up. Greetings from Germany. Well, greetings from the Netherlands back at you, and thanks for your comment. Great video. Congrats on finishing development on Residual. Can't wait to see your next project. Well, you did just now, or most likely the next project. It can still change, but I'm very hopeful, like I just mentioned. Maybe the iCade will be relaunched like the one you have with your games load. You mean this thing right here behind me, the iCade, actually a fake arcade cabinet. It's pretty much a controller and you slide your iPad into it. It was a fun gadget and obviously I needed to have one, but it's not supported anymore. And the code needed to have that controller actually work in the game. Can't find it, or it doesn't work anymore, or something like that. So this is just eye candy right now, and at some point I'm gonna throw it away because we now have the iArcade. Spectrum, good old days, and arcade was always a dream of mine. Also, maybe one day, have fun and can't wait. There's just a lot of people knowing Spectrum and C64. That says a lot about everybody's age, which is pretty cool actually. That arcade comment is awesome, and a Commodore 64, VIC-20 back in the day, good times. Yeah, see, Commodore 64, Spectrum, lots of great memories. Are you planning on making real-time strategy games in the future? I'm not planning on it, but I'm not saying no to it because I like to try different genres. So maybe if I can make it work for me, seeing as I don't really like that genre of games, but that never held me back from trying to create such a game and in a way that I do like it. So we'll see. I won't tell mom and dad, I promise. Thanks, brother. Can you provide a link to the arcade machine? I couldn't find. Yeah, add it to the description of last week's video, the iArcade. Congrats for living the dream. Who needs Lambos anyway? You mean a Lamborghini? No, an arcade cabinet is way more interesting than a Lamborghini or Ferrari or Porsche or whatever. And just to end this with crazy comments, why is ZZ? Right, that's it for this week's comments and this week's video. Next week, if all goes to plan, I should have an announcement video talking about Residual, the publisher and everything. So stay tuned next week. And if not, I'll talk about this game and hopefully have something more to show already, because I'm going to be working on it the rest of this week. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. And don't forget to drop by on the Discord where sneak peeks of stuff that's being made are shown, and sometimes they might not make it into a video, but they're still interesting to see. So see you next week. Bye.